No, I missed last week.
I'm recording, yes. Hello, people of God. It's Pastor Stephen, joined by some wonderful people for our Bible study today. We're going to be looking at Jonah, and if you haven't looked at it, it's not an easy one to find in the Bible, so you might want to start doing that. And I'm going to ask Jacqui to give our opening prayer, and then I have something to ask the other Jacqui. Jacqui?
Thank you. Dear God, thank you for bringing us yet another great day to study and worship you together and learn more about your word and how we can apply it to our lives. As we study Jonah, please be with us and helping us understand what Jonah was so afraid of by running all the way around the map. And this day is difficult for some people because of the inauguration. Please keep our officers, Secret Service, every FBI agent, everybody who protects and serves safe today and every day. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Jacqui. And I got a chance to see a little bit of the inauguration. I'll tell you, I am hopeful, and I was impressed by the parts that I got to see. And I think I see a connection with some of the themes of the inauguration with our reading today from Jonah. I'll get to that later. But first, I just was asking Jacqui Herzog, who both of you spell your official name with a Q, even though you spell your informal names differently, right?
Right.
Okay. So Jacqui Herzog, I just asked you to share something before we started recording. Something that's coming up in a week and a half. Can you tell us what that is?
I'm going to be doing the special music in 2 weeks, and I'm going to be singing a song called The Hymn of Promise. And I told Pastor Stephen that this is a hymn that I would like sung at my funeral. So I have it tucked away in the front of my Bible where I have other verses and songs that I want.
And so I think this is a chance for me to share a word for the wise. If you have a preference of something to be said, or a song to be sung, or a soloist you want to sing, or a scripture you want read, or a hymn for everybody to sing, if you have a preference, let your family know. So if that's by putting it in the front of your Bible that people will look for, or if it's by sending me an email, and I'll make sure things are kept on file whether I'm here or not. That's a good thing to do, to let people know what you would like. And that's a wonderful hymn. And it starts out, in the bulb there is a promise, and it's all about kind of promises of things to come. So it's a great hymn. I have an announcement to make. I will do the special music this Sunday, and I will pre-record it. And in fact, I recorded it yesterday on my day off. And want to hear the title? The Terrible Sin of the People of Nineveh. That's the title, The Terrible Sin of the People of Nineveh. Doesn't it make you just want to hear it?
Yeah.
You'll have to wait till Sunday. So this is another one of the Carolyn Winfrey Gillette hymns that we've been using. And sometimes she just really hits the nail on the head with something that's perfect for a scripture. Because she's a preacher and her husband is a preacher, they know that sometimes you come to a Sunday and there's a message and you can't find a perfect hymn in the hymnal. So she's been setting about writing lyrics that really speak about those themes and those messages. And she just recycles familiar hymn tunes, so it's not all new for people to learn. So I'm going to give a little bit of a dramatic reading because I'm talking about terrible sin, and or a dramatic singing, but you'll see when the time comes. So we're looking at Jonah today, and I gave I think I said something at the end of last Sunday's service, encouraging people to read it. And some people have, and some people haven't, and that's okay. I think we all heard this story as children. In fact, I want to just ask, who wants to volunteer what they remember as a child about how this was told or depicted, or how you first learned the story? I know for
All I remember is the whale.
You remember the whale?
And the whale.
Okay. Hello, my sister Colleen. Do you teach this to children, this story at all?
I'm sure I have at some point. Yes.
I remember one time our church in Green did a play that was supposed to be mod and happening with the young kids, and so it was sort of like a funny take on Jonah, which actually isn't so far off. It is a funny story. It's meant to be satirical, but it had people saying far out and yeah, cool man and stuff like that. And they put it on about 20 years after anyone talked that way, but the older people like, yeah, that's the way the young people talk these days. We're thinking, no, we don't. But anyway, I remember that. Anyone else? I just saw a movie of Moby Dick just a little while. It was actually a 3-part movie done by the BBC about 20 years ago, and it was on Amazon Prime. So I watched that.
I watched it a couple months ago.
Yeah, so I kind of got into that whaling theme watching it. Although this is not a whaling story about going hunting a whale. Okay, so didn't get a lot of answers about how you first remember hearing this story, but I did hear the whale as a kind of a prominent theme. What else do you all think of when you think of?
I do remember something as a child. I thought Jonah was scared to speak to the people because prophets often are not treated too well. And it wasn't until studying it more that I learned it wasn't so much he was scared as that he didn't think they deserved to be.
He was prejudiced.
Saved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good observation. And a lot of
Yeah.
times there are powerful stories that have things images that grab kids, so we share them. And a great example is Noah's Ark. Who doesn't love all the little animals and 2x2, and there's a mommy and a daddy lion, one has a mane, and so forth. But as you get older and you read it again, you learn there's more layers and more than what was appropriate to share with a little child. Anything else about Jonah?
Well, he didn't do what God asked him to do.
He sure did not. Yeah. Okay, so the way the lectionary works, it just wants me to read 6 verses out of verse 3 or chapter 3. I think we could actually do quite a bit of it, but instead of doing a verse at a time and stopping, let's get into it. So I have a map in my Bible. You probably have some in yours. We'll get into that later, but I'm going to ask Judy Ritz from Florida to, oh, was that your grandson?
Yeah, yeah.
Hey.
He said hi.
Would
He
you-
was just,
Congratulations.
thank you. He was just checking on the baby because we're kind of tag teaming. I'm in a boot and can't take the steps with the baby, so so you'll hear the baby crying too.
All right, can't wait, good. Would you just start reading and we'll stop when it seems right?
Oh, you gave me all the names. Okay.
You're welcome.
Now the word of the Lord came to Jonah, the son of Amittai, saying, "Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and cry against it, for their wickedness has come up before me." But Jonah rose to flee to Tarshish. Sounds like I'm swearing. From the presence of the Lord. He went down to Joppa and found a ship going to Tarshish. So he paid the fare and went on board to go with them to Tarshish, away from the presence of the Lord.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry to give you all those tongue twisters. We don't know anything more about Jonah. I don't think he's referred to in other places, except Jesus does refer to him. And some people think it's just allegory or just a parable. However, there are some things that go beyond that. The thing about parables, it's usually a fictional story meant to tell a lesson. Well, this is certainly to tell a lesson, but there's enough kind of historical detail in there that we don't, or most people, or I don't anyway. I don't want to speak for most people, but I see it as historic, although there's some kind of wild things that are in there. But well, all we know about Jonah is he's a prophet and he's supposed to speak to the people in Nineveh. Is that part of Israel?
No, it's part of Assyria.
Yeah, which is now modern day Iraq. Yes. Yeah, so this is like someone today being told, go to, I don't know, Iraq or China or someplace and preach, or to
North
Russia.
Korea.
Huh?
I could see people running away from North Korea.
Yeah, I don't think I'd jump at that unless I really knew God was saying to do it. Yeah, go to North Korea and preach, because they're bad people. They need to hear about me. No, I don't want to go. They don't deserve to hear that. So that's how he feels. And so he gets in a boat. Where is the boat? Joppa, which is on the coast of Israel. And actually it's going the opposite direction away from Nineveh, which would be northeast from there, but he's going to go west on the Mediterranean. And we don't know exactly where Tarshish is. In fact, we don't even really know how to pronounce it, but he's just going west there. Let's pick up the story. Jacqui Closser, would you read?
Sure. Then the Lord sent a great wind on the sea, and such a violent storm arose that the ship threatened to break up. All the sailors were afraid, and each cried out to his own God. And they threw the cargo into the sea to lighten the ship. But Jonah had gone below deck, where he lay down and fell into a deep sleep. The captain went to him and said, "How can you sleep? Get up and call on your God. Maybe he will take notice of us, and we will not perish."
Okay, so what do you know about the faith of the sailors?
It's not of Christian.
Yeah, because they're praying to their gods. So that's clear. Can you think of somebody else falling asleep in a boat during a storm?
Was it Thomas?
Jesus.
Jesus. Yeah.
Didn't Jesus fall asleep?
Exactly. And the disciples, don't you care? It's a terrible storm. Okay, be quiet. Jonah doesn't have that ability to do that. So, okay, so there it's a crisis. And Judy Flickinger, would you take it from there?
Then the sailors said to each other, "Come, let us cast lots to find out who is responsible for this calamity." They cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. So they asked him, "Tell us, who is responsible for making all this trouble for us? What do you do? Where do you come from? What is your country? From what people are you?" He answered, "I am a Hebrew, and I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the land." This terrified them, and they asked, "What have you done?" They knew he was running away from the Lord because he had already told them so.
Thank you, Judy. To me, there's a mix of kind of interesting assumptions and interesting beliefs and misunderstandings that are coming from them. Can anyone identify something that they seem to just take for granted that they believe?
That this was all happening because somebody did something.
Yeah, there's no sense of, oh, the weather is bad today. No, oh, it's somebody's fault. We need to
Yes.
figure out who. And then they
Yes.
start asking questions. I think it's interesting that he doesn't say, well, I believe in God, but you know him as such and such, but I know him as Yahweh, but we all worship the same God. There is not that sense. It's like, this is who I worship. And they're like, oh boy, you got that God mad. And so it's like, they just take it for granted. Yes, there is a God that goes by the name, or it's just presented to us as the Lord, but he would have said something like that, but it means Yahweh. It's just kind of interesting. Oh yeah, so it's your fault, and your God is mad at us, or at you, and that's why this is happening. Yeah, exceedingly afraid. There's a lot of extremes in this. Maybe your translation said something different, but anyone have anything more to say before we go on? Jacqui Herzog, please.
This terrified them, and they asked, "What have you done?" They knew he was running away from the Lord because he had already told them so. The sea was getting rougher and rougher, so they asked him, "What should we do to you to make the sea calm down for us?" "Pick me up and throw me into the sea," he replied, "and it will become calm. I know that this is my fault, that this great storm has come upon us." Instead, the men did their best to row back to land, but they could not, for the sea grew even wilder than before. Then they cried to the Lord, O Lord, please do not let us die for taking this man's life. Do not hold us accountable for killing an innocent man, for you, O Lord, have done as you please. Then they took Jonah and threw him overboard, and the raging sea grew calm. At this, the men greatly feared the Lord, and they offered a sacrifice to the Lord and made vows to him.
Thank you, Jacqui. Interesting observations anyone want to make?
Well, it sounds like they were right. It was because of Jonah.
And in a way, he is like Jesus in that he calms the sea, but it's by being thrown in. Do you see their reluctance too? They think it's very clear, but oh, we don't want to do this. And then what do they do when to deal with God?
They throw him overboard.
Tried to get back to land.
They
first.
throw him, but they also then they make sacrifices to the Lord, not to their gods, but to, it says to the Lord. I think it's just so interesting because they're not Hebrews, they're not Jews, they don't believe or they don't practice that religion, yet they have a concern and a fear for that God. And I think that would be very strange for us if someone said they were Buddhist or something. We wouldn't then make a sacrifice to Buddha to try to make Buddha happy. But in their mind, oh yeah, that's another God, and I guess that one really has that person. We need to deal with them. But they're reluctant, and I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say they prayed to the Lord and asked for his forgiveness.
Yes, it's just astounding, I think. And yeah, and it does say the sea ceased from its raging, so it's very clear. All right, Linda, just a little bit more. How you doing? You're on mute, Linda. Linda, you're on mute, but would you read the next part? Okay.
Sure. Now the Lord provided a huge fish to swallow Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. From inside the
Oh, we'll
fish.
stop right there. Let's just stop right there. I'm sorry, you only get one verse. 3 days and 3 nights. Does that make you think of anything?
Yeah.
Resurrection.
Yes.
Yeah, Jesus in the tomb. Interesting. And will he be a new resurrected Jonah when he comes out? Also, I don't know about you, but as a child, it was, a terrible thing to be swallowed alive by another creature. But this says it's appointed by God. And I remember it was much later in life that someone pointed out to me, actually, God is saving Jonah at that point. He couldn't have survived underwater for 3 days and 3 nights. And this is also one of those things that make you think, okay, is this just an allegory, just a big fish story, or I don't know how this happens, but I know that God created the world and created living beings and created everything, and God can do what God wants to do. So I'll just roll with it at this point, even though it's pretty amazing. Anything else about that? Oh, here's the other thing. Did it say whale?
Yeah.
Great fish.
So yeah, when we know the story of Jonah and the whale, it's really hard to change the title to Jonah and the big fish, but technically that's what it should have been. All right, Colleen, would you read?
Ooh,
Read all of what?
I was just reading to see what the reference to 117 was, where it says the great fish. And it said, this great fish is carefully distinguished from the sinister serpent of the sea, otherwise called Leviathan, and the monster of the deep.
That you reminded me of something totally different, that usually in the Bible, land and air are God's domain, and the sea is kind of scary. And you kind of think of people in the time of Columbus, that you can fall off the edge and there's sea monsters and everything. And even Captain Nemo and the how many 20,000 leagues under the sea.
Leagues.
It's just a scary frontier that's dark, and you go down, you don't come back up. And in the book of Revelation, some of the images that had come earlier in the Old Testament of the sea and the deep and the fear of it, and it's kind of like away from God, which makes sense for Jonah to think, if I go to the sea, I'll get away from God. And yeah, he has a rude awakening. God is actually involved there, but usually creatures of the sea are not seen in a very positive way in Scripture. But this is distinct from Leviathan, which might mean sea creature or whale. So Colleen, what do you see by glancing at all of chapter 2?
Jonah has a long prayer, looks like.
Yeah, and it's also in poetic form.
Yeah, yes.
So, oh, did any of you hear the poet laureate, Amanda, today at the inauguration? Man, what an amazing young woman. Wow. So something about poetry can be elevated kind of speech. So let's just listen to the whole thing from Colleen right now.
Okay. From inside the fish, Jonah prayed to the Lord his God. He said, "In my distress, I called to the Lord, and he answered me. From the depths of the grave, I called for help, and you listened to my cry. You hurled me into the deep."
Oh, wait, this is the one where I gave the article. So
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought someone said,
Oh,
you
yeah.
I
hurled
heard
me
someone
into
in the background.
the very heart of the sea.
Hold it, Colleen. Can someone mute? Because there's another voice going on.
Sorry, it's me.
Okay.
My grandson-in-law is working from home and I'm trying to stay as far away from him as possible.
Do you know how to mute your phone? To mute the Zoom?
What?
Do you know how
You
to
want me to
mute it?
mute?
Yeah.
I'll mute it. Wait a minute, I have to find that. Okay.
You did it. You did it. Thank you.
Okay. You hurled me into the deep, into the very heart of the seas, and the current swirled about me. All your waves and breakers swept over me. I said, I have been banished from your sight, yet I will look again toward your holy temple. The engulfing waters threatened me. The deep surrounded me. Seaweed was wrapped around my head. To the roots of the mountains I sank down. The earth beneath barred me in forever. But you brought my life up from the pit, O Lord my God. When my life was ebbing away, I remembered you, Lord, and my prayer rose to you, to your holy temple. Those who cling to worthless idols forfeit the grace that could be theirs. But I, with a song of thanksgiving, will sacrifice to you what I have vowed I will make good. Salvation comes from the Lord. And the Lord commanded the fish, and it vomited Jonah onto dry land.
Thank you. I love that word vomit. I just caught something about I thought, oh yeah, you brought up my life from the pit. That's in verse 6. Up from the pit. Does that resonate with anyone? It did for me. And I remember U2, the band, did a song and they just call it 40. And I will sing a new song. I will sing. And they would end with that. And that was often their closing song in concert, at least in the 80s. And then they would one by one leave the stage until it was just Bono singing that. And then he would leave and the crowd would be singing, I will sing a new song. And because at the beginning they said, this is 40. I just looked up Psalm 40 and it says, I waited patiently for the Lord. He inclined to me and heard my cry. He drew me up out of the pit of destruction, out of the miry bog, and set my feet upon a rock, making my steps secure. So there's also being brought up out of the pit. And it's interesting for Jonah to use language like out of a pit, and he's describing the sea. And it's, what did he say? Like the roots of the mountains down to the land. Anyway, I see a parallel with Psalm 40 right there. And this sense of like you've gone as deep as you can go, and it was God that brought you back up out. Any observations about that prayer and the poetry in it? It's pretty open and honest of Jonah saying how he felt, what he experienced, and what happened. And the credit all goes to God. There's nothing like, well, I pulled my bootstraps and here I am. Nothing like that. It is all, I was lost and God saved me. And it ends with a little bit of vomit on the dry land. I think we can read the whole thing today. So Judy, are you up for reading some more?
Okay. Is that right? Am I,
Yes.
can you hear me?
We
Yes.
can't see you, but we can hear you.
I don't know why you can't see me. What verse? Or chapter 3?
Chapter 3, start chapter 3.
Okay. Then the word of the Lord came to Jonah the second time, saying, Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and proclaim it to the message that I tell you. So Jonah arose and went to Nineveh, according to the word of the Lord. Now Nineveh was an exceedingly great city, 3 days' journey in breadth. Jonah began to go into the city, going a day's journey. And he cried, Yet 40 days, and Nineveh shall be overthrown. And the people of Nineveh believed God. They proclaimed a fast and put on sackcloth, from the greatest of them to the least of them.
Thank you.
Mhm.
A lot of things in just that little passage. Anyone want to comment on anything?
It's going back to Christ, but the 40 days and 40 nights that Christ went into the wilderness.
Yes.
And basically, like, I've thought of Palm Sunday, or is it Palm Sunday when Jesus rides into the city? Like it said, on the first day Jonah started into the city. I don't know.
I want to go with the 40 again. I just mentioned Psalm 40. Can anyone think of anything else that is in the Bible that's 40 days?
Isn't it Noah?
Yeah, it rained 40 days and 40 nights. Anything that's 40 years?
Were they in the
Wandering.
desert or
They
something?
were in the
Yes, that's the Israelites after Egypt. They're wandering in the wilderness. So 40 is kind of a special number in the scriptures. It has to do with a time of testing and going through something. So it's not surprising that that would be what's going on with Nineveh. Anything else about those 5 verses?
So when they say it's a great city, I guess that means it's large. Is
Yes.
that what it means?
It takes 3 days to walk across it. That's pretty big. And I did, my Bible has a map. There it is. It looks not too different from Jerusalem at a glance, although there's several temples to several gods in it. But it was a big city, and it did have libraries. It was one of the more advanced cities in the ancient world. And it eventually fell because with flooding, part of the walls came down, and that was the way you protected yourself back then. And then others could come in and attack them once that wall was down. But it was definitely, as much as Jonah is prejudiced against them and sees them as dirty heathens, they are pretty sophisticated heathens, and they have libraries and learning and parks and things like that, that history and archaeology can tell us about that city. So it was a real city, and these are some of the things going on with it. How many words? Oh, yeah.
I was going to say the people believe Jonah.
They do, and it doesn't go into it in a lot of depth, just they believe, but then how is their belief reflected?
They
Fast.
sackcloth and ashes and
Fasting. And some of the things that are associated for us with Lent are 40 days of preparation for the Lord. And by the way, I'll be sharing more later on, but I've been talking with been researching about what others are doing for Ash Wednesday 2021. I learned that in the Vatican, so they don't have the touch, they will sprinkle ashes on people's heads, which I don't want to do. And I think the Pope has said no imposition of ashes this year. By the way, I just, if I hold up my calendar, can you read that or is it backwards?
It's March.
It's right. It's right.
Yeah.
Because
It's correct.
it's backwards for me. So I think that's something Zoom does. It makes all, for ourselves, it puts it the way we would look at something in a mirror. But for the other people, it switches it so that we can read things if we need to. So I just realized that this morning when I was in another meeting. So anyway, with the ashes, I saw that some churches are going to bag them up and send out baggies to people or have them for people to pick up. And I'm like, oh no, that would be such a disaster. And so I
Why
have some
can't you
ideas.
just wear gloves?
Well, I'd be touching different people with that same glove. So I think we're going to do something where you can do it at home, but I will share a video. I'm still working out the details about this. And I'm going to experiment with lighting a candle, blowing it out, and then after it's cooled a couple moments, then to get that and see if that would make a little bit of a mark. And then you can do it at home. And if there's a loved one with you, you can share, but I'm experimenting with some ideas about that. And if you don't want ashes, you're welcome to wear sackcloth instead. So get your itchiest sweater, and that's a way to share your repentance. Or fast, just go without eating that day. Any one of those, but I think the ashes will be the easiest. But they were all symbols of, oh, woe is me, and I'm sorry, and I need to get right with God. And that's what they do. What is his sermon? What makes them change?
It's just that one line. I get 40 more days and Nineveh will be overturned.
Overturned.
8 words. Maybe he said more, but that looks like that's his sermon. And they're like, okay, let's get ready and let's change and what does that say about the role of the Holy Spirit in preaching?
Hmm.
Well, that'll make people stand up and listen.
I know some pastors when they're trying to get people to raise their hands to come forward and convert, and there's a lot of psychological pressure. And I feel like if it's the time and God is working in them, they're going to hear it, or whatever the message is. If people are open and God is working, God can make people hear anything, even just, yeah, in a few days, then Nineveh is going to fall. Oh, okay, I better repent. So he was faithful though. He went to Nineveh, which he was really running away from in the first half. He goes there and he preaches it, they respond, and all is well in the world, right? So whose turn is it to read next? How about Jacqui Claus?
By the decree of the king and his nobles, do not let any man or beast, herd or flock taste anything. Do not let them eat or drink, but let man.
I think you missed verse 6. Did you read 6?
No, I'm sorry. I thought we were okay. Sorry. When the news reached the king of Nineveh, he rose from his throne, took off his royal robes, covered himself with sackcloth, and sat down in the dust. Then he issued a proclamation in Nineveh. By decree of the king and his nobles, do not let any man or beast, herd or flock taste anything. Do not let them eat or drink, but let man and beast be covered with sackcloth. Let everyone call urgently on God. Let them give up their evil ways and their violence. Who knows? God may yet relent and with compassion turn from his fierce anger so that we will not perish.
Thank you. That is pretty amazing national leadership for the king to declare everybody must do this. Everybody needs to follow, but he feels it's really important. Any observations or thoughts?
Basically, isn't he basically telling him to, well, I was thinking of fasting, but when I was thinking, do not let man taste, I'm thinking of kosher. That they only could eat certain things. The
Well, this
leavened
is-
bread.
This is not among Israelites, so they're not Jews and they don't know about a kosher diet. It's just a straightforward fast, I believe.
Okay.
No food, no water. And everybody pray. Turn from evil.
And
And
love.
I'm wondering why it's extended to the animals.
What did they do to deserve this?
I don't get it.
They're covering all their bases.
It seems like it. It's a little excessive. But you know, give them an A for effort, I guess. Yeah. All right. And Judy, would you read? There's only one Judy left. So Judy, would you read it? Verse 10, just verse 10.
When God saw what they did and how they turned from their evil ways, he had compassion and did not bring upon them the destruction he had threatened.
Now, I'm reading a different translation, so maybe my paragraphs are different, but mine ends with just one paragraph, sort of like the other two chapters, I think, ended with just one verse that kind of sets everything that has just happened before then. So God hears, God relents,
Commanded.
and doesn't send judgment on them. Yeah, so that's crisis averted. Very good. Okay, well, we might as well get to chapter 4. Sounds like a nice story. It could have ended there, and that's the whole thing. Jonah didn't want to do it, but the whole big fish thing, okay, now he does go, and he does preach, and they do listen, and they do respond, and God relents. Wonderful. End of story. But there's more. Jacqui Herzog.
Jonah's anger at the Lord's compassion. But Jonah was greatly displeased and became angry. He prayed to the Lord, "O Lord, is this not what I said when I was still at home? That is why I was so quick to flee of Tarshish. I knew that you are a gracious and compassionate God, slow to anger and abounding in love, a God who relents from sending calamity. Now, O Lord, take away my life, for it is better for me to die than to live." But the Lord replied, "Have you any right to be angry?"
Thank you. Any comments on that passage?
That just blows me away. That he's so angry.
He's the
Take
most
my life.
successful prophet or evangelist of all time.
And he'd rather die now.
Yeah, yeah, I want to die. This is too much for me. And I knew you're a gracious God, merciful and slow to anger and abounding with steadfast love. That is also something that's repeated in several different Psalms, I believe. I love that passage about God, slow to anger, abounding in steadfast love. You can even say slow to anger, quick to love. Yeah. And God asked the rhetorical question, are you right in the head? Linda, would you read from 5, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Jonah had gone out and sat down at a place east of the city. There he made himself a shelter, sat in its shade, and waited to see what would happen to the city. Then the Lord God provided a leafy plant and made it grow up over Jonah to give shade for his head, to ease his discomfort, and Jonah was very happy about the plant. But at dawn the next day, God provided a worm which chewed the plant so that it withered. When the sun rose, God provided a scorching east wind, and the sun blazed on Jonah's head so that he grew faint. He wanted to die and said, "It would be better for me to die than to live." But God
But
said,
we'll stop right there. We'll stop right there. What a pity party he's having for himself.
Woe is me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you have it so bad. And I never had noticed this before. He made a booth for himself so he can keep an eye on the city. So why would he want to keep an eye on the city?
Maybe he's doubting.
I think he wants it to be destroyed.
He wanted
Oh,
to
man.
watch as it blew up.
It just, It reminds me of a nosy neighbor that's looking out their shades, like snooping on someone else, and you want something bad to happen. And oh boy, get over yourself, Jonah. And Colleen, when you finish 9, 10, 11.
But God said to Jonah, "Do you have a right to be angry about the vine?" "I do," he said. "I am angry
I
enough
do.
to die." But the Lord said, "You have been concerned about this vine, though you did not tend it or make it grow. It sprang up overnight and died overnight. But Nineveh has more than 120,000 people who cannot tell their right hand from their left, and many cattle as well. Should I not be concerned about that great city?"
The end. Now I'm feeling like, no, there needs to be more. What do you want to hear at this point? If you were to
But
wrap
Jonah
up-
finally gives in and says, okay, I don't want to die.
Yeah, okay. God, if you say so, I'll live. Good. Or I kind of want to know, does this last with Nineveh? Do they still, they hold up their part of the bargain, or they go back to their sin? And does Jonah come to a point where, okay, God, you're loving, I guess I should be loving too? And
I love, can I read something in the one footnote? And
please,
I
yeah.
just sums it up. How easy it is to be more sensitive to our own interests than to the spiritual needs of people around us. We need to cultivate the same compassion for others that God has for all creation. And I think Jonah was kind of neglecting that, wasn't he?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
We're not told who's writing it at the beginning. Were there first person statements? I did this and I did that. No, it's told in third person about him. The word of the Lord came to Jonah, but Jonah rose. Yeah, so it's not told like he's writing it. And in my reading beforehand about the background of the book, it's hard to date it because it doesn't say who wrote it. My Bible makes a strong point that this is not just a parable or allegory. It really is something historical. And one of the strong arguments for that is that Jesus refers to it, and he doesn't talk like it's just a little fairy story. He does talk like it's something that happened in history. And we do know that Nineveh was a real city, and that went through some of the kind of things that it's talking about. Where was I going with that? I just lost my train of thought. Sorry. Oh, that it's in third person. And so we don't know who wrote it. So it could have been Jonah told the story and people then were passing it on word of mouth, and then eventually somebody put it down in writing. We don't know, but it's kind of terse. It doesn't, I mean, the sermon is so quick, and it's like, oh, and then they believed. And at the end, it just stops with, oh yeah, there's some people and cattle that are important to, and which makes it seem like it's hastily written. However, structurally, it's well written, and it purposely shows how glorious and forgiving God is. And it shows Jonah that's quite a jerk. Self-pitying fool.
I like the one footnote here. It says Jonah may have been more concerned about his own reputation than God's. He knew that if the people repented, none of his warnings to Nineveh would come true. This would be an embarrassment to him, although it would give glory to God. It says, are you more interested in getting glory for God or for yourself?
That's a great observation.
Yes.
I must have done this in a Bible study years ago. I'm using my very old study Bible, and I have little, just one word things, and submission, selfishness, control is not Jonah's, it's God's. So he felt like he wasn't in control, just like Jacqui said. Everything's not tied up in a bow. Comfort zone, he was not in a comfortable place. He didn't have obedience. And then I have questions. Do we have the right to be angry at God? Repentance and patience with us. God shows his patience through Jonah, because Jonah kept saying, I just want to die, I just want to die. But God's like patient with him and tries to shade him with the tree. And then, if Jonah would have just taken the pesticide and got rid of the worm, he would still have the shade, stuff like that. I don't know. And then I have on the side hope. It provides hope.
What would you say is the big takeaway lesson, anyone, for you in reading this today?
Salvation is for everybody, all people.
And that was not known by the Hebrew people. They knew they were God's chosen people and they were special. I don't think they really wanted to share that. They kind of liked having that special relationship with God. Anything else?
God's patient.
Certainly, yeah. Not only with the people, but also with Jonah.
I like how you said at the end of each chapter, there's a word or a summation. And the first one I noticed was provided. The second one was commanded. The third one was compassion. And the fourth one, I don't think there's any. There's no word I can. Concern, maybe? Because he was concerned about the great city. And it kind of reminds me of like how he provides when you're in, I forget where it is, but it's something about God will provide. Even the birds have is it the grains that they know?
Are you thinking of the Sermon on the Mount when the sparrows neither sow nor spin? Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And the flowers. Yeah, the flowers. Yeah.
Yeah. Yet they, have this. I don't know. It's like in this compact four book thing, it's compacting all of this information.
Yeah. It's a good book. I am a little bit challenged at how to preach it because I feel like I want to share the whole thing. Maybe we can do it a little bit like I just did, or we did here, because I don't want to just preach one short passage. Now, if I was preaching on the gospel passage and I wanted to make sure this was read, sure, reading 5 or 6 verses might be enough, but I think I'm going to need to summarize parts and read parts and go through it. I said at the beginning that I'd seen a little bit of the inauguration today, and at least in President Biden's, that's a new thing to say, his words, it was about he's president for all people, even knowing that there are some people that were not happy about him coming to power. And I would like to see, I'm hopeful for follow through with those words, that it's not about dividing people, but about understanding. We want to share the blessing that is America with all Americans. And the lesson for Jonah was God isn't just for your people and against everyone else, but to have a compassionate view of other people. So that's where I see a little bit of a parallel today. Any other thoughts?
We've lost a lot of compassion this past year.
It's been a rough year for us. Yeah. But well, at the same time, I see kind of the best and the worst in some people. I do.
Yeah.
Compassion. Yeah. All right. Who would like to give a closing prayer?
I can do it.
Thank you, Jacqui.
Dear Lord, our Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this Zoom prayer study, Bible study. We learned so much about your word, and let us have obedience to you, and you will give us all forgiveness. We ask this in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for being a part of this and digging in with one another, and see you later. Bye.
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 Bye-bye.